facing pay chops. Top managers in state firms, some of which are struggling, are in President's crosshairs after he said SRC must answer as to why the bosses earn over 2 million shillings a month. And this is on page 4. And then they've listed here some of the parastatals that we have these eye-popping figures being given to the CEOs there. Government agencies where the CEOs earn 2 million shillings to 3 million shillings each a month. Despite the fact some of them we've also seen even recent reports regarding the performance. They have been dismally performing, yet the CEOs continue to rake in a lot of money at the end of the month. Maybe some of even the listed companies. We have the Capital Markets Authority that normally asks or that the CEOs should be declaring their salaries as well. I've not seen that listed or maybe published this year or last year. But in light of corporate governance as well, that if you're earning this particular money and the company is doing fine, that's okay. But if the company is not doing well and you're walking away with such a kind of eye-popping figure as well, you should be accountable and tell why the company is doing dismally. But we can just talk about this briefly before we go to the stories of the day as well. There was also the disparity. Recently, the publications was there in the media regarding how there's that disparity between top management and the low cadre of workers. That's pay gap that is really, really mind-boggling sometimes. What the CEO rake in, and what also maybe a person with the janitorial pay rakes in at the end of the month.
I think the issue is how the country organizes its own tax system. Because in Sweden, Norway, and generally the Scandinavian countries, if somebody increases your salary, you complain. I mean, in this kind of salary, if you received it, you say, no, I don't want that. Because the taxation, it will be nothing. Because it will be taxed in a graduated manner to the point that you don't get that kind of of a salary. The idea is that they want to flatten the income, that those who are the lowest incomes and the highest income, they are kind of a level, and they use the tax as a tool to do that. Here in Kenya, I think we have that principle to an extent, but I don't know whether it goes to that level. I'm personally very suspicious when you get to a certain tax bracket, because it means you lose a third or so of your salary. So that's one way to look at it, that we don't have to talk about it. We need to act on it. And acting on it is basically, spelling out the principle that we're using. When you start targeting, this targeting of CEOs or others, both in private sector, we have not even gone to the private sector, the banking, that are non-government. People are making big money, big money. But at the same time, if you are taxing, then you would even reach those who are in private business. Forget about those who are in parastatus. But again, we need to ask a fundamental question, as we asked earlier. Are some of these companies supposed to make profit, or they are simply supposed to facilitate services? Take, for example, the National Hospital Insurance Fund. Is it supposed to be a profit-making, meaning you say it made so much profit? I don't think so. It's a service to a great extent. Yes, Kenya Power need to make profit because the purchase of certain technologies in order to make it to get it going is very expensive. So if it doesn't make money, then we are not going to invest in terms of the new technologies that are coming up, either for energy transmission, energy storage, and so on. But again, we need to focus more holistically on the industry, which would now include also the super salaries. But we need to look generally at the economy. What I do know is that, and it looks like there is a lot of, what you call it, this culture, I saw it in the 1980s, and I must say this. I saw it in the 1980s and 1990s, when 1980s at the university level, 1990s as a graduate and a professor, lecturer at the universities, where there is so much targeting of individuals. And I think nations don't need to focus on individuals. They need to focus on policies and principles that are governing them, because they will affect everyone, including the president's salary. So you don't have to discuss the president's salary. You need to discuss the economy. You don't have to discuss the vice president's salary. You need to discuss, the economy generally. So what are the principles governing our reforms? What are the principles governing our economy? Then you'll stop this idea of targeting. And we have gotten to this kind of witch hunting, in the mentality. We have witch hunting. Take, for example, the electric crisis, the shutdown of the country for 20 hours or so when we lost the electricity. What was the conclusion? That this was not an accident, it was targeting certain communities, right? At that level, you started sowing the seeds of discord in the country. Let us focus on principles and policies governing growth, rather than talking about targeting individuals and so on.
Okay. Ambassador, you want to comment on that briefly?
Yes. Quite a bit of what Professor said is quite pertinent. But I think I want to step back and look at the whole structure of salaries in an economy. And as he has put it, and say, is there any rationality? The answer is no. Because just to talk over a few cases, if you look, for instance, in the Nordic countries, teachers are cherished. And that's because of the role they play.
Yes.
A teacher is not necessarily for profit, but a teacher is preparing your human capital for the future, your values for the future, and therefore you must remunerate them. But look at our structures. Look at how do we pay our parliamentarians, our MCA, our teachers? Is it based on the performance? But talking about CEO, the role of a CEO is evolving, and you have seen that some of tech companies, for instance, are even bigger than a country. You have tech companies whose income is bigger than Kenya, and the CEO therefore cannot necessarily earn like the president of Kenya earns, because the president is a CEO. And so when it comes to salaries, if you look at the impact of the CEO in terms of the resources at disposal, innovation to make sure that the company at the end of the day generates profits, or the resources they have, these are all things that we should be. But when I listen to the conversation, it is about, as he said, individuals or targeting individuals. If we were going to talk about salaries, let's sit down and ask ourselves, is the economy getting value for money? Is a CEO given that remuneration? Because some of the companies, if, say, the CEO is returning good returns for the shareholders, why not reward them through shares or something, so that you incentivize them to produce more? So let's not wade into this with emotions, but cool down and let's face it in a very structured and rational manner.
Right, Hashim. Briefly, I think just to briefly, not really go deeper into it, it's just a cursory remark that I'm saying.
I don't agree with my seniors. I think that they should increase the salaries of these CEOs. And the reason is because there's rampant corruption in state institutions.
Correct.
And if we give these CEOs proper salary, proper housing, and the level of education and experience that they have, they will have no reason to take kickbacks, and if they do, we will have the capacity to imprison them for life.